John D. Rockefeller, Sr., a biography. John Davison Rockefeller, Sr. remains one of the most iconic and controversial figures in American history. His life story is one of immense ambition, meticulous planning, and profound contradictions. A devout Baptist who became the world's richest man through ruthless business tactics, and a visionary philanthropist who revolutionized charitable giving. Early life and influences, 1839 to 1855. John Davison Rockefeller, Sr. was born in Richford, New York, on July 8, 1839. His early life was marked by instability and starkly contrasting parental influences. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, known as Big Bill or Devil Bill, was an itinerant salesman and con artist, a flim-flam man who peddled patent medicines and engaged in questionable schemes. Big Bill was often absent for long periods, leaving the family in precarious financial situations. He was a charismatic but morally ambiguous figure who reportedly boasted of cheating his own sons to make 'em sharp. This upbringing instilled in young John a deep sense of caution and a penchant for secrecy. In stark contrast, his mother, Eliza Davison Rockefeller, was a devout Baptist, a woman of strong moral principles, order, and frugality. She provided a stabilizing influence, drilling into her children maxims like willful waste makes woeful want. John inherited his mother's piety, discipline, and meticulous nature, which would become hallmarks of his later success. The family moved several times during Rockefeller's youth, from Richford to Moravia, New York, and then to Owego, New York, before eventually settling in Strongsville, a town near Cleveland, Ohio, in 1853. These frequent relocations and the family's often straitened circumstances fostered in John a desire for stability and financial security. He was a serious, quiet, and methodical boy, not brilliant in school but diligent and with a remarkable aptitude for numbers. His mother encouraged his early entrepreneurial efforts. By age 7, he was raising turkeys for sale and meticulously recording his earnings in a small ledger, famously known as Ledger A131313. Eliza Rockefeller's deep Baptist faith was a cornerstone of John's upbringing. He was taught the importance of hard work, thrift, and giving back to the church from a young age. The Second Great Awakening had profoundly influenced upstate New York, and the evangelical Protestantism of his youth shaped his worldview. He embraced his mother's religion, finding in it a source of order and moral guidance. This religious devotion would remain a central, if often perplexing, aspect of his life, influencing both his business practices and his eventual philanthropic endeavors. He often stated that he believed his ability to make money was a gift from God. Rise in business in the Standard Oil Company, 1855 to 1890s. In 1855, at the age of 16, after a 3-month course at Folsom's Commercial College, where he studied double-entry bookkeeping and commercial law, Rockefeller began his search for work in Cleveland. His methodical job hunt, approaching major railroads, banks, and wholesale merchants, lasted 6 weeks until he secured a position as an assistant bookkeeper with Hewitt and Tuttle. Commission merchants and produce shippers on September 26, 1855, a date he would celebrate annually as Job Day for the rest of his life. He excelled in this role, demonstrating an almost obsessive attention to detail and a passion for the method and system of the office. He was known for his meticulousness in reviewing bills and ensuring accuracy, earning the respect of his employers and the local business community. By 1858, having saved $800, Rockefeller, along with Maurice B. Clark, formed their own produce commission partnership, Clark and Rockefeller. His father, Big Bill, advanced him the remaining capital needed for the partnership at a 10% interest rate. The firm prospered, particularly during the Civil War, which created a huge demand for foodstuffs and other commodities. The discovery of oil by Colonel Edwin Drake in Titusville, Pennsylvania in 1859 triggered a massive oil rush and transformed the region into a chaotic boom town. Cleveland, with its proximity to the oil fields and its growing transportation network, quickly became a refining center. In 1863, Rockefeller, then 24, along with Maurice Clark and an Englishman named Samuel Andrews, who had experience in refining, invested $4,000 to establish a refinery called Andrews, Clark and Company. Rockefeller saw the potential in refining as a more stable and controllable part of the volatile oil industry compared to the speculative drilling business. Their first refinery, the Excelsior Works, was strategically located on the banks of Kingsbury Run, providing access to both water and rail transport, a key element in Rockefeller's future strategy of leveraging transportation rates. Rockefeller's meticulous attention to efficiency, cost-cutting, and the utilization of byproducts quickly made the refinery highly profitable. He focused on economies of scale, reinvesting profits to expand capacity and improve processes, such as manufacturing their own barrels for less than $1 each. The formation and dominance of Standard Oil. The post-Civil War oil industry was characterized by ruinous competition, overproduction, and wild price fluctuations. Rockefeller, a man with an innate craving for order, believed that consolidation was necessary to bring stability and efficiency to the chaotic industry. He envisioned a giant cartel that would control refining capacity, stabilize prices, and rationalize the business. In 1870, Rockefeller, along with his brother William, Samuel Andrews, Henry M. Flagler, and Stephen V. Harkness, incorporated the Standard Oil Company of Ohio with $1 million in capital. Flagler, a shrewd businessman who became Rockefeller's lifelong closest associate, was instrumental in this move and many subsequent strategies. The name Standard Oil was chosen to signify the uniform quality of their kerosene, a key selling point at a time when consumers feared explosions from impure products. The infamous Cleveland Massacre, or Cleveland Conquest of 1872, marked a pivotal moment in Standard Oil's rise. Armed with favorable and secret rebate deals with the railroads, negotiated largely by Flagler, Rockefeller systematically bought out or drove out of business most of his Cleveland competitors. Within a few months, Standard Oil absorbed 22 of its 26 Cleveland rivals, often paying a fraction of their original worth, but sometimes offering Standard Oil stock as an alternative to cash. Rockefeller argued that he was saving the industry from destructive competition and offering a godsend to failing refiners, while his critics decried his tactics as predatory and ruthless. The controversial South Improvement Company scheme, a short-lived secret alliance between major railroads and a group of refiners including Standard Oil, further solidified Rockefeller's power by granting substantial rebates and drawbacks on oil shipments, effectively crippling competitors not part of the scheme. Though the South Improvement Company was quickly dissolved due to public outcry from the oil regions, it demonstrated Rockefeller's strategic thinking and his willingness to use aggressive tactics to achieve his goals. Over the next 2 decades, Standard Oil relentlessly pursued a strategy of horizontal and vertical integration. It acquired refineries in other key centers like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and New York, often using the same tactics of railroad leverage and buyouts. The company also expanded into pipelines, creating entities like the United Pipelines, which gave it control over the transportation of crude oil from the wells to the refineries. It developed a vast marketing organization, eliminating middlemen and selling directly to retailers and even consumers through its fleet of tank wagons. Standard Oil also became a pioneer in the global oil market, exporting kerosene worldwide and establishing foreign affiliates like the Anglo-American Oil Company in Britain. By the early 1880s, the Standard Oil Trust, formally established in 1882 through an ingenious agreement devised by lawyer Samuel C.T. Dodd, controlled an estimated 90% of American refining capacity and a significant portion of pipelines and marketing. This vast empire was managed with remarkable efficiency through a system of committees that coordinated policy across its numerous, often secretly held, constituent companies. Rockefeller himself, while retaining ultimate authority, increasingly delegated operational responsibilities, focusing on broad strategy and finance. His leadership style was characterized by an emphasis on meticulous accounting, cost control, efficiency, and the recruitment of able executives. Controversies and criticisms. Rockefeller's methods inevitably drew intense criticism. Muckraking journalists like Henry Demarest Lloyd, Wealth Against Commonwealth, 1894, and Ida Tarbell, The History of the Standard Oil Company, 1902 to 1904, exposed the company's ruthless tactics, secret deals, and monopolistic power, painting Rockefeller as a Mephistopheles of Cleveland and the architect of a predatory octopus. Tarbell's meticulously researched series, in particular, had a profound impact on public opinion and fueled the antitrust movement. Rockefeller was accused of destroying competitors through unfair advantages like railroad rebates and drawbacks, predatory pricing, industrial espionage, and creating bogus independent companies to mask standards control. Rockefeller himself maintained a policy of public silence for decades, believing his actions were justified by the need to bring order to a chaotic industry and provide the public with cheap, reliable kerosene. He argued that Standard Oil's success was due to its efficiency and superior business methods, not illegal or unethical practices. He often framed his consolidation efforts in almost religious terms, as an angel of mercy saving the industry from itself. Philanthropy, 1890s to 1937. Even during his most aggressive business expansion, Rockefeller was a consistent and significant charitable giver, a practice rooted in his Baptist upbringing. His early ledger A. Meticulously recorded donations to church and various causes from his first earnings. As his wealth grew to astronomical proportions, the challenge of distributing it wisely became a central preoccupation of his later life. Rockefeller's early philanthropy was largely focused on Baptist causes, including churches, missions, and educational institutions. He was a major benefactor of the American Baptist Education Society, ABES. He also showed an early interest in the education and welfare of African Americans, contributing to the institution that would become Spelman College in Atlanta, named in honor of his wife's family. Guided by his business principles, Rockefeller sought to make his philanthropy efficient and impactful. He favored wholesale giving through organized agencies rather than scattershot individual donations. He was wary of charity that fostered dependence, preferring to support initiatives that addressed the root causes of social problems, what he called the principle of cure, rather than mere alleviation of suffering. The systematization of Rockefeller's philanthropy was largely orchestrated by Frederick T. Gates, a former Baptist minister who became Rockefeller's principal philanthropic advisor in 1891. Gates was a visionary administrator who shared Rockefeller's belief in scientific large-scale solutions to societal problems. He helped Rockefeller to establish major philanthropic organizations and to develop a philosophy of giving that emphasized research, education, and public health. Gates once famously warned Rockefeller, "Your fortune is rolling up like an avalanche. You must keep up with it. You must distribute it faster than it grows. If you do not, it will crush you and your children's children." The University of Chicago, founded 1890. Rockefeller's first monumental philanthropic act was the founding of the University of Chicago. Persuaded by educational leaders like William Rainey Harper, the university's first president, and Thomas W. Goodspeed, and guided by Frederick T. Gates, Rockefeller eventually donated approximately $35 million, a figure that reached around $80 million with later gifts from him and his foundation, to create a world-class research university. He insisted on high academic standards and a non-sectarian approach, though the university initially had Baptist affiliations. The Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research, founded 1901, now Rockefeller University. Inspired by the potential of scientific medicine and Gates's study of the field, Rockefeller established this pioneering biomedical research center in New York City. Under its first director, Dr. Simon Flexner, the institute became a leading center for medical discovery, making significant contributions to understanding and treating diseases like polio, syphilis, and meningitis. Rockefeller ultimately gave over $61 million to the institute. The General Education Board, GEB, founded 1902. This organization was created to promote education in the United States, particularly in the South, without distinction of race, sex, or creed. It played a crucial role in developing public high schools, improving teacher training, and supporting higher education, especially for African Americans, though its approach to black education sometimes accommodated segregationist views and emphasized vocational training. The Rockefeller Sanitary Commission for the Eradication of Hookworm Disease, founded 1909. This targeted campaign, later absorbed into the Rockefeller Foundation, successfully fought hookworm disease, which was rampant in the American South, dramatically improving public health in the region. The Rockefeller Foundation, founded 1913. This became the flagship organization for Rockefeller's global philanthropy, endowed with an initial $100 million. Its mission was broadly defined as to promote the well-being of mankind throughout the world. The foundation extended the work of the Sanitary Commission internationally and supported a vast array of initiatives in public health, medical education, scientific research, and agriculture across the globe. Rockefeller's philanthropic donations totaled over $530 million during his lifetime, a sum that revolutionized the scale and methodology of charitable giving. Later, life, retirement, and legacy, 1890s to 1937. Rockefeller began to withdraw from the active management of Standard Oil in the mid-1990s, citing health concerns and a desire to focus on his philanthropies. By 1897, he had effectively retired, though he retained the title of president until 1911. John D. Archbold became his successor in running the day-to-day operations of the trust. His retirement, however, did not shield him from the continuing controversies surrounding Standard Oil, particularly the antitrust suits that culminated in the Supreme Court's 1911 decision to dissolve the company. The breakup of Standard Oil, 1911. In 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil of New Jersey was an unreasonable monopoly in violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act and ordered its breakup into 34 independent companies. Ironically, this dissolution made Rockefeller even wealthier. As the owner of about a quarter of the old trust shares, his holdings in the newly independent companies, which included future giants like Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, and Amoco, skyrocketed in value, particularly with the rise of the automobile and the burgeoning demand for gasoline. His net worth peaked at an estimated $900 million around. Personal life and retirement. Rockefeller spent his long retirement primarily at his estates, Forest Hill in Cleveland, until it burned down in 1917, Kykwit in Pocantico Hills, New York, and the Casements in Ormond Beach, Florida. He became an avid golfer, meticulously tracking his scores and approaching the game with the same focused intensity he had brought to business. He also enjoyed landscape architecture, transforming his estates with roads, gardens, and transplanted trees. He became known for his quirky habit of distributing dimes to adults and nickels to children, often accompanied by a short sermon on thrift and hard work. This practice, initially private, was later encouraged by publicist Ivy Lee and helped to soften his public image, transforming the feared monopolist into a somewhat eccentric grandfatherly figure. His wife, Seti, suffered from declining health in her later years and became largely an invalid before her death in March. Rockefeller, though often away from her due to his seasonal rotation of residences, remained devoted to her memory. He outlived all his siblings and many of his old business associates. Public image and legacy. John D. Rockefeller's legacy remains complex and debated. He was a pivotal figure in the creation of the modern industrial corporation, demonstrating the efficiencies of large-scale organization and vertical integration. His business methods, however, raised profound questions about corporate power, fair competition, and the role of government in regulating the economy. The controversies surrounding Standard Oil were a major impetus for antitrust legislation in the United States. Simultaneously, he was a philanthropist of unparalleled vision and generosity. His foundations pioneered new approaches to tackling major global problems in health, education, and scientific research, setting a standard for large-scale, professionally managed philanthropy. Winston Churchill once remarked, "When history passes its final verdict on John D. Rockefeller, it may well be that his endowment of research will be recognized as a milestone in the progress of the race." Bertrand Russell identified him, along with Bismarck, as one of the two men supreme in creating the modern world, one in economics and the other in politics. H.G. Wells acknowledged his ruthlessness, but saw him as a forward-moving force, a constructive power. William James found him a man 10 stories deep and, to me, quite unfathomable. a blend of goodness and conscientiousness, yet accused of being the greatest villain in business. John D. Rockefeller Sr. died at the Casements in Ormond Beach, Florida, on May 23, 1937, just shy of his 98th birthday. He was buried in Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland, Ohio, beside his wife Seti and mother Eliza. His life, a tapestry woven with threads of stark contradiction, continues to fascinate and provoke, embodying the dynamic and often morally ambiguous forces that shaped modern America.